Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Chris, aka Starrapter. I'm joined by a very special guest today. We have the second half of Eye On Canon. That is, we have Joel Davis here on the channel, everybody. So, Joel Davis, man, just tell us how you are all over the top. I'm totally screwing up this intro. I'm going to cut all this out right now. This is the first time I made a mistake in, since I started this. I'm so ashamed of myself right now.
Oh no, I brought bad luck upon the intro.
No. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Chris, aka Starrapter, joined by my guest of the night, Joel Davis, for episode number 73 of Outer Rim Transmission. This week on the show, we're talking about the updates on Andor. Some promotional stuff is out. We're talking about an update with Ron Johnson, as well as the recent books that came out this summer, including Brotherhood, including Shadow of the Sith, and including the novel of Han and Leia, which is The Princess and the Scoundrel. But first, Joel, tell us everything you do with Eye On Canon, with everything with the Star Wars Underworld podcasting network, and just introduce everybody, because they might have seen your name in the chat from time to time on our live videos here on the channel. But just give us an idea of what you do and how you're involved with the fandom, man, because you've been really prevalent in the last couple of years that I've known you, with really spearheading a lot of this canon talk and everything else, which was why I brought you on this week.
Yes, I love talking about canon. I have lots of cannons. Big cannon, small cannon. Hello, everyone. I'm Joel. Nice to meet you all in the YouTube world. Yes, I am half of the Eye On Canon podcast. It's a podcast that buddy Matthew and myself have been doing for a while. I've done it for a year. No, it hasn't been a year yet. But it's getting closer to it. And basically what we do is we love to look at almost everything Star Wars, books, movies, TV shows. We mostly focus on the books and comics, and kind of see how it all kind of mixes and mingles together in a way, like the canon. Like, how does a book affect the story moving forward, both out of universe and in universe, from both timeline perspective and also just kind of like going backward retroactively. Retroactive canon is always fun. And then we're part of the Star Wars Underworld podcast network, along with the Ray side and some of the other shows. We've been on Underworld. I've commented on and super chat on Underworld before, even before we were part of the network. And we just have an all around good time, as Dominic would say. And I just love talking about Star Wars. So it's like put those talents to use. That's what I've been doing, and having a great time doing it.
Yeah, it was great. I met you for the first time over there in your neck of the woods, which is Anaheim, California, Orange County, California, and we met in the hotel lobby of the good old Marriott, which I feel like there are so many memories in the Marriott and all those places around Celebration. So it was great to meet you there and be involved with the fandom face to face with a lot of these cool people.
Oh, totally.
But
I had such a great time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I had such a great time, and just being there, seeing everyone in person, it was such a great experience.
Oh yeah, I cannot wait for what's gonna happen in London. I feel like there's a lot of big reveals that could be happening there. They're saving. I mean, we got D23 though coming up literally next week, so I would imagine that there's gonna be some bombs dropped off there, because I was, grabbing my research for the show as I normally do for the news stories, and I'm looking at StarWars.com and these articles haven't really been updated since mid-August, some of these bigger stories. So it's it's obvious that they're holding their cards close to their chest. We know we're getting a Disney Plus Day, which will have that Obi-Wan Kenobi behind the scenes reels documentary. We're going to get the Friday, which is going to be the gaming panel. They have said the Lucasfilm Games is going to be there, so I'm very much thinking that Jedi Survivor will be shown there, because there's not any major gaming conventions, and there's no EA Play presentation this year, so that would be their place to do it. And of course, Saturday I think is the big day for the Disney Plus shows and the movies and all. So yeah, that's going to be a big last salvo for the summer with the Star Wars presentations and whatnot. So I'm excited for that.
Me too. I think D23 is going to have some good reveals, so I'm looking forward to it.
Heck yeah. So with Star Wars, what have you been doing lately? We have our segment, Our Week in Star Wars, where we just talk about anything Star Wars that might have, been in the forefront of our minds. I know me and you are always reading something or watching something. So what is it that you can tell the audience that you've been up to with Star Wars this week, man?
Oh, well, I'm pretty much almost everything. I'm really looking forward to Andor this week. That's gonna be fun. Not this week, but this month. No, yeah, this month. I'm not quite sure. It's so sad November. Hang on just a second. Sorry, but I was making noise.
No problem.
But let's see. I'm looking forward to Andor this month. I've been, reading a lot of books. I'm trying to get through Princess and Scoundrel. I'm on chapter 23 for the slow burn. But I've been enjoying what I've been reading.
Yeah.
Mostly this Andor head focus. That's stuff I've been really, really excited for. Quite frankly, it's the most hype thing I'm looking forward to. And that's about it. Just what this week of Star Wars has been. I watched Kenobi again on Hannah Rayside's YouTube channel because she did a rewatch of that. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was cool. And that was about it. That was about my week of Star Wars. Just a lot of watching stuff and getting hyped.
Yeah, no, I gotta go back and rewatch Obi-Wan. I think that'll be really cool to have, if I have an afternoon where I have 4 or 5 hours, I think it'd be a pretty cool experiment to just sit there and watch them all in basically 1 or 2 sittings, get up, get lunch at some point or something, and then come back and watch another couple episodes in quick succession to see how that would flow for me. Because, I was lukewarm on the series. I liked a lot of things in the beginning and at the end, but some of the things in the middle, I've always been saying, it's just, it was a little disappointed. And I have a strong feeling that D23, they might announce the Season 2, I don't know. I have a feeling that in Book of Boba Fett, I feel like they're going to just be like, boom, boom. Season 2 coming.
That'd be cool. But yeah, I was just giving Kenobi a bit of a rewatch. I think you'll have a different experience.
Yeah.
At least I hope so. I did.
Yeah. But getting into bye week, I went and I've been on this kick where, first off, I'll explain why I was on this kick for 80s movies. I don't know if you watched all of them, but the ILM docuseries, The Light and Magic, behind the peak of what happens with ILM, started from the ground up and moving up until the Marvel stuff and Mandalorian. I finished episode 6, so I've literally been piecemealing it out for each week because my initial idea was, Andor is going to be out on the 31st of August, and if I watch 1 episode a week, that'll literally bring me up to Andor. Well, of course, it got delayed 3 weeks, but I'm like, whatever. So anyway, I've been holding it off, and every Wednesday I've been treating it like it's a release, and I've just been watching it every Wednesday morning, getting hyped up. But yeah, they've been putting out really awesome content about hey, how do they make certain special effects shots from certain things? So I went and I watched E.T. last week. I was talking about that. I watched that in IMAX because like Rogue One, they re-released that in IMAX, which looked so cool, sounded awesome. And then I ended up watching Poltergeist because I had never seen that movie, period. And man, oh man, I was talking about the references to Star Wars on E.T. last week, and Poltergeist just completely destroys them. There's not any dialogue things of anybody talking about Star Wars, but this one kid, it's suburbia in California, typical four-person household, and the younger brother has Star Wars everywhere in his room, just like I do. And it's my dude. This is in the 80s, and he's got a C-3PO light switch. He's got the Darth Vader in the background. He's got the Star Wars bed sheets. Every corner of his room has Star Wars in it. And even at one point, for some reason, his sister had a Luke Skywalker action figure like in her mouth, like chewing on it. It was so bizarre, but I was like, I think I have to give Poltergeist the award for the most Star Wars memorabilia besides like Fanboys fan film or something like that they had in like a single movie, because it was pretty large. And mind you, like this is like the mid 80s too. It's not even like, I don't even know if Return of the Jedi was out by the time of this movie, if I'm being honest with you. I have to look up the date. But we do know that Steven Spielberg did the story for the movie. I think wrote some of the script for the movie. He didn't direct it, but there you go. Like Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, like, yeah, throw all the Star Wars stuff in there, because why not?
Let's see. Return of the Jedi came out in 1983. So, if it's anything after 83, then probably, yeah.
we got Matthew Negebauer in the chat, and he's saying, "Oh, sir, not talking about my basement." Yeah,
no, we're not talking about your basement.
We got the other half of Eye On Canon in the chat, and just quick reminder and housekeeping for everybody: we go live every Friday at 9:00 Eastern on outerrimtransmission. We also have the podcast available to download on all your podcasts networks. That is over there on Monday at around 12 a.m. So for your commutes and everything else, it's ready for the work week for you guys. So getting back to it, so I had a fun time there. Just pointing out all the little references, like being like the guy with the meme with Leonardo DiCaprio, like it's like on the seat in a movie theater, like pointing like, I see that, yeah. It's like, yeah. He's got a Todd, he's got this, he's got that. It's just like, okay. And now every movie has like several Star Wars things all the time. Look at Spider-Man, the Death Star and all that kind of stuff.
I remember. Have you ever seen the Ben Affleck movie Argo?
No, I haven't seen that. I hear that won a lot of awards from what I remember.
Well, at the very end of that movie, it takes place in 1979. You see Argo, the main guy, returning back to his son, and then the final shot is just his little desk, and it had like vintage, old 70s, late 70s, early 80s Star Wars action figures. They got like the Darth Vader, the Boba Fett. This is before Empire Strikes Back has even come out. So, got like all those classic Kenner toy Star Wars action figures.
Oh, wow.
I think Star Trek ones lived around too. So, that was kind of like the final shot, and that's really cool.
Yeah, so I was like pointing those sorts of things out.
Yeah.
So we're ready to move on. We had some big releases this week. I always like to point out every week our Star Wars releases in the paper canon, as Matthew coined a phrase, and I can't get rid of it now. So I think he did, unless you did. I don't know which one of you. I'm pretty sure he did. Okay.
That was him.
So we had some big releases this week. I say big releases because technically we have our first Star Wars The High Republic Phase 2 story, and that is in Star Wars Insider issue number 213. So that is a magazine, Star Wars Insider, that's been going on as long as I can remember. I have signed up like a year or two ago for a subscription through some website I found online, which gave me like a heavy discount. And they ship me these magazines. It's got to be like 2 weeks earlier than they go on the shelf in the stores. So for me, it's like, yes, I'm like one of the first people to read the High Republic story. But it's called Tales of Enlightenment. And these stories are basically framed at this bar called Enlightenment on Jeddah in the Holy City by the Temple of Kyber. You have this character that is basically our look at what is happening around the galaxy. So for instance, like the one story that they're on, it's part 1 of 2, and this one person that is a prospector for hyperspace travel, apparently Batu exists back then as far as it being settled. Black Spire Outpost is about there 350 years before the events of Phantom Menace, because remember, this is like 150 years before Light of the Jedi, which is 200 years before. So it's like, I know you get into the math, it's like, where are we exactly in the timeline? So I would mark this as like the earliest canonical piece of Star Wars literature out right now, if you're not counting Legends, of course. So it's cool because it's like, yeah, she got like ransacked by these Nemoidian pirates, and then there was a Jedi that was in the sail next to her, and it was funny because he's like, oh yeah, I could have gotten out of here at any point. I purposely got myself caught because I'm poor. I can't afford a transport. There's a planet that I want to go to, that I want to study, and I heard that this pirate ship was heading in that direction, so I figured I'd get myself captured. And then when I get to that planet, I would just basically retrieve my lightsaber through the Force, get it through the bars, cut myself out, and eventually get off of the ship. I was like, seems like that's a very annoying way to get where you want to be. So
I know.
the prospector that's telling the story to this character at the bar is like, I was really angry at the Jedi because he could have freed me at any point, and he just took his sweet old time doing it. So that's basically the framework of the story is like, hey, there's hyperspace prospecting going on. That's something new. We learned that hyperspace travel is dangerous, which we kind of knew about, but especially with these pirates, and this is a lawless time. The Republic is not having its foothold in anywhere. They are still developing the outposts, and me and Matthew were at that High Republic panel over there at Star Wars Celebration, and they were talking all about these survey teams that are headed by Jedi that also have like these technological droids that ferry back information, like the old Pony Express things. So it was a cool kind of table setting. The insider story was just like, hey, this is the world, this is where we are right now, and these are the types of things you could expect. So it was a nice little thing that whet my appetite going into October, which we got basically, oh yeah, I think it's literally as of recording, we're going to get The Path of Deceit, which is the young adult novel that kicks everything off officially a month from today, which is October 2nd. So there you go. We're going to have a lot of content. It's going to be fast and furious. They do have an insert in that insider, which they have a lot of interviews with the new writers that are involved. Remember, they brought up 4 new writers, and they have like, I don't know, I think they're doing away with the waves or something of the High Republic, because they have just a very, it's like there's stuff coming out in October, November, and January, and then they have a gap, and then they have stuff coming out only in April and May, and then it's over. So it's literally only like it's like a 7-month or an 8-month phase, it looks like. So very expedited, and it gets me to wonder, like, oh, okay, I guess they brought these writers on, the new ones, to take the brunt of the work off of the original crew of the 5, and then maybe by the fall of next year we could get phase 3 already, is what I'm thinking about. So
Oh, that makes sense. I mean, I know people were already a little miffed about, wait, we're not going to continue. We're going to go back. It's like, wait, there's still more, there's lots of unresolved stuff in phase 1. It's like, what going on? It's like, I'm sure people want to get back to phase 3 and keep moving forward as soon as possible. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a bit more of an expedited phase, just to kind of like, okay, well, we got to see some backstory here, because I'm sure that's going to be important later, and then once the backstory is all seen and you get it, it's like, okay, now that backstory is going to really help you understand what this final, probably even bigger phase, if I had to guess, phase 3, if it's the last one, if it's like a 3-phase thing, going to be like, the big home run thing, in terms of like, this is the final big battle between the Nile and the Republic, so, this is it. So, little interlude, and then on to the big stuff.
I think they kind of want to expedite it as well, because I was seeing reports earlier in this week, and I don't have official news stories on this, but apparently the Acolyte has like physical sets like already like in production or finished already. So if that's the case, then they're going to get started filming soon, which would mean I'm thinking like an early 2024 release date for the Acolyte. And if that's the case,
they were already filming already.
Oh,
that
maybe
might be me.
Oh yeah. Wait, they might have been, because they already announced the lead actress like back at Comic-Con. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, basically, I don't know if they want to have the High Republic books like completely finished by the time the Acolyte comes out. That's all I'm saying, which would be like, okay, are they going to expedite this and try to get this phase 3 out in 2023, where they can get it basically done just in time? I don't know.
I kind of guess that the Acolyte has the late 2023, 2024 release schedule. That's just, I don't think they've confirmed anything about when the Acolyte actually happens. So
Yeah.
trying to think, but I don't think there's a release date.
But
I'm personally thinking 2026, 2024.
yeah. But I mean, I think we're gonna get a good idea at Disney at D23. And if we don't get a good idea at D23, we'll probably have to wait all the way till April in London, and we'll get maybe a panel just on the Acolyte, hopefully.
Well, that's exciting about why I'm excited that Celebration's coming so soon, because like, oh, okay, well, if D23 doesn't get anything, then we get Celebration in April next year. It's like, okay, well, that's a lot closer than I expected, so that they must have something ready to start kicking off.
Mm-hmm.
So compared to the last 2 years, although Celebration didn't happen because also COVID. So that shows me that they both have things to say, and also like, okay, we kind of now know when the avenues of possible release date things will happen.
Oh yeah. And the other release we had this week was one that me and Matthew were talking about, and this is Obi-Wan number 4. And man, oh man, like this series, it didn't really start off that strong for me, if I'm being honest. Written by Christopher Cantwell. It started off like the first issue was like a youngling Obi-Wan running around Coruscant, which is pretty neat because we didn't really ever see a youngling Obi-Wan. The next issue I was not a fan of, and that was one with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan like in this dark world that apparently was like messed up because there's like some radiation or something like that. But it wasn't until episode 3, or issue 3, mind you, where they have the Battle of Aberon Bridge, which was a brand new thought of story battle for the Clone Wars, in which it's like a losing battle on all sides, and it's just epic in scope. There's different ships and Jedi and militiamen and all this stuff that's working. And then you have issue 4 that came out this week, and it actually addresses like the cost of war and what it does, like mentally traumatizing people, and how this Commander Mechadrex ends up going AWOL essentially, and just becomes like a nihilist and just starts blaming the Jedi and killing clones, and just like resides at the Sith temple. It's absolutely crazy, and the story was so good.
Ooh, nice. I've heard good things. That's cool. It's nice to see the Clone Wars be all dark and edgy for like a day. Like, yeah, it's war. That's what's gonna happen.
I don't know. I've always thought about the idea of like, hey, it can't just be the clone troopers fighting, right? There's got to be. Well, we've seen like the Saul's freedom fighters on Andor in the Clone Wars arc, but I was like, I wanted to see more of that stuff, and that's kind of what these 2 issues gave me, a little bit more of like the effect on the galaxy outside of the Republic and different things like that. But yeah, it just shows you that as many episodes as we got from the Clone Wars, I can still get more Clone Wars stories, and I'm not complaining. I'm like, give me more. I was like, Christopher Cantwell needs to get an ongoing series of just like battles that are, of the Clone Wars in this style, because it's just, it's very melancholy-esque, but it is just awesome action, and you get a lot of cool dialogue between Anakin and Obi-Wan, and Anakin is over there just like doing some stuff that he doesn't mean to do, and it's like Obi-Wan's there to kind of like give him a helping hand and all that kind of thing. So as we'll talk about Brotherhood later on, which very much has a lot of that too, it was great to just see more Anakin and Obi-Wan content, especially as we said earlier, having watched Obi-Wan Kenobi series recently. It's a nice reminder, and that's why they synergize these things, everybody. They put them out at the same time on purpose.
Right, we're not getting a lot of Andor tie material though, which is honest. Considering it's probably the most transparent show they've had. Like, got Tony Gilroy giving an interview every 5 days. It seems like. It's like pretty open about what's going to be in the show. So, I'm surprised there's not a lot of Andor tie-in stuff, or maybe it's like, we don't need it. We got everything in the show we need.
Yeah, go watch Rogue One. There's your tie-in stuff.
Or read Catalyst.
Oh yeah, there you go. And maybe, I guess maybe the show will tell us so much about his backstory that they're like, hey, we don't even really need any more of his backstory. You got it all in the show, so there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
But there you go. That was what was out this week. Next week we have Star Wars issue number 27. Yeah, 27. Yep. And that's the Death Star plans. Death Star 2 plans are in the running, so I'm very much looking to see how that resolves itself. Finally getting some more Luke Skywalker action from the looks of it, because he has been taking quite a back seat in the recent Star Wars flagship series. So moving on to the news, we have an update. We have a bunch of updates this week. Run through these pretty short before we get to our main discussion here. Apparently, Rian Johnson had an exclusive story over there at Empire. The trilogy is still in the works. He's updating. Just long story short, he's very involved with the Netflix deal. Something called Glass Onion. I'll be honest, I haven't even seen Knives Out yet, but he's working on 2 sequels to Knives Out, apparently. And then I think they say that Netflix paid some exorbitant price for like several hundred, like a couple $100 million to him to make these movies or something, right? Is that right, or is that too much?
No, that sounds right from what I've heard. Netflix kind of giving
gosh.
people. It's no wonder they're having business problems. Like,
Yeah,
too much money on these.
yeah, really.
Don't get me wrong. I've heard nothing but amazing things about Knives Out from anyone who's ever seen it. I haven't seen it myself, but I wish I did. I've heard nothing but it's a great movie. But yeah. But I've heard like they're giving everybody just cash money. So.
Yeah, of course. Brings up a lot of just what we think we're kind of done discussing Last Jedi. Of course, whenever there's some Rian Johnson stuff comes out, and of course it gets the internet in uproar, and there's the debates that follow suit, as we could all expect. So be careful out there on the internet, because somebody might yell at you if you say the wrong things they don't want to hear. But yeah, it's just it's interesting to say, like it's just this project that got announced before The Last Jedi was even out in theaters officially. The Lucasfilm had given him an entire trilogy, and we get it. The trilogies are very much sacred to Lucasfilm. They want to make sure that they don't mess this up, but at the same time, it looks like he's probably going to just have to finish these 2 movies before he even gets involved again. If that's the case, then
the fact that he's even said that in an Empire magazine, I think that's still a good chance of it's still happening eventually. Remember, Indiana Jones is coming out next year, and I bring that up. Is it next year or this year? No, next year. I remember that was announced in 2012. So 2012, 2023.
Oh my gosh!
It took forever to get Indy 5. Talk about a pre-production time. If you really think about it. I think Indy 5 was in 2012. I know they announced it even before Episode 7 came out. So that should be an indicator of how long we've known there would be one day in Indy 5.
Oh wow! Yeah, that is. Damn. Yeah, I did not realize that movie was announced that far back. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, let him do his thing and don't rush it. I mean, we see Taika Waititi. We're all like, we want that movie out in 2023, and he's like, I'm not even finished writing yet. So just let them take their time. It's not like there's any shortage of Star Wars, and I know it's not a direct comparison in the slightest, but there's been a lot of stuff in the gaming industry I just want to bring up with they should have delayed that thing, because if they did, it would have been better. Now nobody wants to play because it's a terrible state right now. I'm talking about Halo Infinite. and the multiplayer is like, oh man, the story was great, but then you go to the multiplayer and it's just like, how has this thing not changed in a year? Like there's no new content. Same thing with Cyberpunk 2077. They kept delaying it. They should have delayed it more, because I still haven't played the game yet, and I still own it. So, if I take any credence from the gaming industry, there's no shortage of Star Wars on TV. And as long as they keep telling good, interesting stories, it's not going to make me feel that bad that I have to wait longer for a movie if I'm getting fed Star Wars content on a weekly basis that's going to be on the caliber of Andor. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think there's a good chance we might see Taika's film 2024, latest 2025. That's my best guess estimate.
Yeah, 2024, and then we get Rogue Squadron 2025, and then maybe by that point, the Rian Johnson will have gotten some start on a trilogy there. And it could be interesting. Like, I would like to see him take if he's in complete control of writing this thing and directing it. Me and you were just chatting earlier before we started recording about Rings of Power. speaking of which, Lord of the Rings, like, take the Peter Jackson approach. Just shoot this thing back to back to back. It's never been done with Star Wars before, but we see how effective films can be that are in a trilogy when you can just shoot them succinctly. Like, get the actors, be like, hey, you're going to sign your life away for the next 3 to 5 years, but we'll pay you like $50 million. Don't worry about it. And there you go.
It's risky, and that's why they don't do it for a lot of things, obviously. But with Star Wars, you could get away with that. Like, you could have honestly gotten away with that with episode 7, 8, 9. Like, you're guaranteed at least $1 billion on that first one because it's the first Star Wars in so many years. So, like, yeah, I could see you could honestly probably get away with doing that method. I mean, there are pros and cons to every method of making a movie. I don't think there's one correct way. Otherwise, we'd all be rich and making bazillions of dollars. But yeah, that would be an interesting way to do it. I don't know, like what Rian Johnson's trilogy format is, like how far in space in terms not actual space, but like is it like a story that will take place over the course of 5 years? Does he have like a 1 year thing? He probably even doesn't have like that. He probably just has the basic concept, and he probably hasn't even worked on that stuff yet anyway. So, but yeah, that's definitely an interesting way to do it.
Yeah. So moving on to our next story here. What we have going on is an update on video games, by the way. You just mentioned them. Apparently, Quantic Dream has been acquired by NetEase. So NetEase is, Quantic Dream, let's clear that up, is the developer for Star Wars Eclipse. We have heard that it's been not doing so great on the hiring state of things. You know, the stories coming out about the leader of this whole studio is kind of a jerk from what it seems like. So, of course, nobody wants to work with somebody like that. So they're having trouble hiring, but they have been acquired by a Chinese company, NetEase, which is kind of infamous for having a lot of microtransactions. So me reading behind the lines here and a lot of other people online were like, oh, of course, this studio, which has been Quantic Dreams have been trying to get bought out from a publisher for years, and nobody's been like buying them. They're just like, of course, this Chinese company would be the one to do it that has the gross microtransactions. So I know their game is going to be single player narrative driven, but please, oh please, just don't put like random crap in here that I have to buy, you know?
Oy, like Star Wars Eclipse has had like the worst luck, and like I thought, like I don't even know what's going to come out at this point, you know? Like I know one day we'll get a Knights of the Old Republic remake someday. Because there's just instant money to be made again. No risk. Instant money with that. But with this one, it's like, is it even going to happen at this point? I don't know.
Yeah. It's a shame because it's the High Republic we're talking about. We talked about the Acolyte. We talked about Phase 2 of the High Republic. There's a chance we could get a freaking video game and complete the full circle with a TV series, a video game, a book, comics, like just the whole 9 yards. Hey, just throw a movie in the mix down the line and we got everything. So and the worst part is like they put out the cinematic and it looks so good. It was a good Star Wars cinematic and it got me intrigued and but we'll see what happens there. If this thing comes out before 2027, that'll be a miracle, I think, at this rate. I don't know if you've watched the Watchmen series on HBO that was released to critical fame a couple of years ago, but the creator of that, who also was a part of Lost and The Leftovers, his name's Damon Lindelof. There was a story a couple months ago about him being involved with Star Wars somehow. Now he's been seen regularly on a Disney lot. So we've been getting this. We're not sure what he's working on, but this has come from Jeff Snyder, who is he's a big time, Hollywood kind of leaker or whatever you want to call it, influencer, who's really right on a lot of this stuff. So he's been hearing that, he's there. But anyway, so what could this guy make? This guy, I watched Watchmen and it was incredible. I love that series. It had a lot of messages for like the real world through that, which is something that Star Wars always done. I mean, look at George Lucas, making a statement on the Vietnam War and Return of the Jedi and all that kind of thing. And So it's good to have that, strong resonance of a theme behind the actual fiction itself. So I think that Damon is a great filmmaker for the things I've seen him. Well, that's really the only thing I've seen him do. Honestly, I haven't really
I know
watched
him a few
Lost.
things. I know him from Lost. I heard that of Lost. He did both of the Abrams Star Trek movies. He wrote them. I think he wrote
Oh,
at least one
really?
of them. Uh-huh. He also co-wrote Tomorrowland. That Disney movie Tomorrowland. He co-wrote that with
Okay.
Brad Bird. No, Brad Bird? Yeah.
He's the Pixar guy, right? Brad
Yeah, he
Bird.
did Brad too.
Oh, okay.
Co-wrote that, and now he's showrun Watchmen, which apparently is really good from what everyone says. So he's been around. Been around doing a lot of things. Uh, yeah, I really curious to see what he can do with this with a Star Wars. Maybe the showrunner of another Disney Plus show or a writer for a movie. I mean, he knows how to do both. He's done theatrical and television or streaming television. So, yeah, interesting pick. If he whatever he's working on, if he's working on anything at all.
Yeah, well, and who knows? Lucasfilm is so secretive. Who knows who else they're talking to right now? Who else is on the set of these sorts of things? Because
He's writing
it's pretty.
scripts in secret.
Yeah,
That they have
exactly.
just lying around.
Exactly. You got that shelf that everybody talks about all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll take some stuff off that shelf every once in a while and give it to an up and coming creator out there. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, so Andor is at this point less than 3 weeks away. So we got a little bit of an Andor hype check. I know recently, as of today, I think they put out a new teaser, TV spot. There we go, guys. They got the TV spots rolling. That's how we're getting close. We're gonna get TV spot number 13 with all of 2 seconds of new footage. So yeah, I mean, as far as your hype, I'll let you lead this one off. So how are you feeling with the promotion? How are you feeling with seeing things like maybe action figures that are leaking, that are showing different outfits of different things that I've seen? Where are you at with Andor? I know you were saying that it also is going to be the dark horse of the Star Wars universe, as far as like, oh, this thing's going to be the one that's the best out of all of them.
Oh, I'm hyped, man. Gonna be best out of all of them. I've been hyped for Andor since the announcement. Rogue One is probably my favorite of the Disney era Star Wars films. Um, and they're bringing in Tony Gilroy, and I just love everything he says. The way he seems to be approaching this series, like saying all the right things for me. Just the trailer itself gonna be unique. Gonna be dark. Gonna be like very different type of Star Wars than we're used to. Uh, and they've been really open about this series, even more so than I think Kenobi. And they were pretty open about Kenobi too. But like you got Tony Gilroy and Diego Luna just interviewing all the time. They're being very transparent in what's in the show. I don't really think they've really hidden anything. It's like there's no secret. It's just like here's what you're gonna get. So in that regard, it's like go cool. It can be 12 episodes, 2 seasons. That's like 24 episodes total. It looks great. It's amazing, and I'm just super excited. I'm hyped for this show. I think it's going to be the most unique Star Wars project we've gotten this year.
Yeah, what I really like about it is long form storytelling. 12 episodes, none of this, 6 episode stuff we've been getting through Marvel and Obi-Wan. The fact that the detail of just the fact that they're not using the volume. I know we were so excited about volume, and it seemed like everybody after Book of Boba and Obi-Wan kind of like turned tail a little bit on it and was like, maybe it's not such a good thing anymore. But if it's utilized right, like how Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni use it, it's fine.
Well, I'm sure they used the volume somewhere. I bet they didn't. I don't buy Tony Gilroy saying he didn't use the volume. I think he used it for something. He probably didn't use it a lot, but I think he used it like at least once.
Yeah.
Like the Senate shot. That's Senate shot probably. Like I don't think they built an actual galactic Senate. Oh, that'd be cool if they did.
You're right. I mean, that would be the perfect opportunity to have that. Who wants to sit there and build all those sets? I mean, come on. It's crazy. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Coruscant of it all and seeing the Imperial holdings there and and everything that's evolved from the political. We have been straying away from the political. After the prequels, most of the people back those days were like, get that out of Star Wars. We don't need that anymore. And then we got the sequel trilogy, and they're like, where are the politics? There's no politics now. And then Lucasfilm's basically, I thought you guys didn't want politics. And it's like, yeah, we need a little bit of it. And they're like, all right, here we go with Andor. We're getting a look at the Imperial seat of power. And I'm very curious to see if we even see Palpatine, because, us book readers know that, he's infamously not ever really at those meetings. It's like Massimita that's doing most of the delegation and, fake bills that aren't really doing anything. So I'm very curious about that whole procedure. Is like, how do you have a government that has thousands of seats on a Senate, but like nothing happens? Like ultimately down the line, it's like, Emperor gets the bill in front of him, veto, or something. Like,
no. He signs it, and then he just puts it in his filing cabinet, which is just the shredder.
I can't wait to get Mon Mothma's perspective on all of this. I think that's going to be like the best parts of it,
Oh yeah. And I just had like this idea of like all the senators getting ready to vote. It's like all the stormtroopers behind the senator, just like, yeah, are you gonna vote? Are you gonna vote? But no, I'm excited too. It's like this seems like it's like the first time Star Wars is attempting an actual political thriller type show. I mean, there's always been politics in Star Wars, but they've never been political thrillers. They're not like, House of Cards meets Star Wars. It's always been, just politics. Like, I think it's the closest thing you're going to get to that type of politicking, as it were. Obviously, Mon Mothma is a senator, and she did basically in the Capitol. So, she's going to be dealing with a lot of those people. And, you got Andor, or that I like to call him Andor, because that's what they bring to that one guy called him Andor.
Oh, man, Lithium, yeah.
Andor has been, he's doing the grunt work. He's doing the things that must be done to win the war. So, and obviously we're going to see Saw Gerrera, and he's doing lots of things, questionable things against the Empire. The Empire. So, I don't have that much of a qualm against it, but it's gonna be cool to see kind of him and what he's been up to, and like maybe he's skeptical of Mon Mothma because he's like, she's a fancy senator with her mansion and her private car. Like, he's been doing the real work in the ground, fighting the Empire. They're like, why should I join you? You kind of see all those kind of things kind of come together. It's going to be really sweet.
What you explained just now of comparing this show to a House of Cards meets Star Wars is a damn good analogy, because that could be awesome if that's actually what they pull off. Like, I was thinking of like Game of Thrones / But yeah, but the whole House of Cards, that's a damn perfect expectation that now I gonna go in with like, all right, it better feel that way.
And the Bourne Identity.
Yes, I never watched those.
I think Tony Gilroy wrote and directed those. I think
that's
them,
right.
So.
But I'm looking forward to the spy espionage. I mean, that's what this series is sold on, is the spy espionage. That's been a common thing in Star Wars. We got a lot of those things, for whether it be The Last Jedi, A New Hope. There's always been a little bit of sneaking around in Star Wars. And I was very excited to see like an image of Andor, who was in Imperial costume, pre-Rogue One. So we're getting that idea of like, oh, well, how is he so good at doing that in Rogue One? Well, he's done it before, and he's done it on this planet, and he's gotten this information, and we got that clip of him, handing off that information or whatever he is, and he's getting paid for it, and Luthien is saying, hey, selling Skarsgård's character, like, I'll pay you 1,000 credits to tell me how you did it, and you just go in acting like you belong there, and no one cares, So, what you thinking about that clip? Let me hear what you thought about the clip that was released.
Oh, it was so good, and it's sort of funny how dressing up as an Imperial is like a trope in Star Wars. Everyone does it. It's like, look at that. They you guys have the Stormtrooper, they don't know it. And then bam, Rebels does it, New Hope did it, Rogue One does it, Last Jedi does it. I don't think Rise of Skywalker did it. But almost everyone does it. That's sort of like the classic Star Wars trope. But I like it here because it's like, it really kind of like, it takes that kind of goofy trope, that kind of but here it's like, oh no, there's an actual reason why this is happening. It's like, the Empire are a bunch of elitist nuts, and they are evil, and they think they're better than everyone. So like riff raff like you getting into our facilities, like yeah, like that's not gonna happen. We're so mighty. Look at us, we're the Empire.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, and also just losing, just like here, get this out of the bread. Now tell me, get it over with, kid. It's like showing that this isn't a New Hope. This is not it's like this isn't Rebels. And I like those shows too. I mean, I like Rebels. I like A New Hope. It's like this is very much realistic Star Wars, as much as you can get realistic with Star Wars. I mean,
Yeah.
as I've said, this is Star Wars for grown-ups. Obviously, it's not gonna be like rated R. It's not gonna be like violence and super duper violence and other stuff. It's like as Star Wars for grown-ups it can possibly get, as far as you can get without obviously making it a hard R or anything like that. I don't think Star Wars should be, but if you want your Star Wars for grown-ups, this is as close as you're gonna get to it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we with Star Wars, they wanted to have some content that is based in that original trilogy era where the fans came from originally back in the, they're in their 40s, 50s, whatever. This is going to be like their show. That and Mandalorian. I guess a lot of the content does have the iconic Stormtrooper in it, like beating the heck out of Stormtroopers. Obi-Wan, one of the most, I don't know if I'll call it graphic, but things I was most surprised by death of a Stormtrooper is one gets cut in half by laser gate. So it's like,
I say
wow.
For grown-ups, I mean, not in terms of like violence, although probably violence, but more in terms of like dealing with some very mature scenes and ideas. Like you gotta think about the nuances, and like Andor is not your clean-cut hero like Kenobi is, or even Din Djarin. He's gonna do some stuff. He's gonna probably gotta stab his own best friend in the back because the cause needs it. You got Saw Gerrera. He's like, here's a truck full of Imperials, but they're all cadets who are 10 years old. Do I blow it up? It's like, do I make that choice? And those sorts of kind of dark things you got to do for the revolution.
Did you read the book Leia, Princess of Alderaan?
I did.
Now, the part with Saw Gerrera where he gets the flechette rounds and he just massacres, was it like innocent people?
Yeah. Are you sure that you're not thinking of Rebel Rising?
Wait. That's the one? Wait, was it? Now I'm confused. It might have been Rebel Rise.
It's not even Rebel Rising. I don't think Saw's in Leia, Princess of Alderaan. He's suspected to be in it.
Panaka, whatever one Panaka is in.
That's Leia. That's Leia. So if you're thinking of Panaka, then you got it. Then that's Leia, Princess of Alderaan. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, no, because then I guess Two Tubes plants a bomb on him or something.
Yeah, then that's Leia, Princess of Alderaan.
And then it's a separate one where Saul goes in the other book, and he just basically it just shows you how ruthless the guy is. Like, why? Like he just massacred these innocent people, and I as bad as it is for me to say this, like I hope we get something as heinous as that happening in the Andor series, because it seems like there's got to be a reason for the people to know how bad this guy is and why in Rogue One he's so hated. Like they haven't really gave us a reason. Like they showed us people being interrogated by the Borgullet. But I mean that's not super bad. Like let's see evidence of Saul just going on the gray line, like skirting between the edge of evil to get his own. Let's see that and see Mon Mothma's reaction, because then we see in Star Wars Rebels how riled up Mon Mothma is, but we still don't really see why she could be rationally that mad at him yet, in my opinion. So I'm hoping we get the fact that we got Saw Gerrera on the poster of the darn thing means he's gonna have a lot of screen time, in my opinion. I hope he does at least.
Oh yeah, I hope so too.
I would like to see it. And that's the thing, I haven't been looking into this as much as I would for a Star Wars movie as all these other characters, and I don't think there's a lot explained about. But if you look at this poster, there's 5 or 6 characters that I literally know nothing about. I don't even know what their character names are. There's a character in an ISB white uniform. There's several settler looking people that come from probably the same planet that Andor's. I don't know who these people are or anything, so I'm kind of going in with a blind eye right now. So that's really exciting. It's just like I don't
No,
know
you
anybody.
should. I think you should. I think Andor is very much it's the dark horse of the three coming out this year. I mean, Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi are obviously legacy characters, so they kind of do a little bit of their own heavy lifting with their marketing. Kenobi especially was the big one that everyone been clamoring for years, and then here's old Andor. He's not super new. He's 6 years old. He actually is 6 years old because Rogue One is 6 years old this year. Um,
Ha.
so he's been in the fight since he was 6 years old. To quote the movie. But like no one's really kind of had like their super hardcore deep notions of what the Andor's path is like outside of like unless you read like a visual dictionary or something. So it's gonna be really cool to kind of see kind of people just kind of coming in with like really no expectations whatsoever unless you're like a diehard Mon Mothma person who like has a very specific need for Mon Mothma to like something, which I don't think a lot of people are outside of maybe a few book fans like myself.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah. So I'm looking forward to Andor. I still got to get out to the movie theater and watch the IMAX, watch the new preview. Did you get a chance to see it? Are you planning on seeing that in the theater?
No, I don't have the time. Sadly,
Me
I
neither.
wish that would have been amazing to see Rogue One in IMAX.
Yeah, I think
Like,
it's gonna be there for a couple more weeks. I think. Um,
that's-
But yeah, I know the IMAX theaters are few and far between. I used to have one in my neighborhood, and then of course the pandemic they just went out of business. So it's like son of a gun. Now I have to travel like 25 minutes, which is a lot better than some of the people I've heard that have had to make the pilgrimage to see the mighty Rogue One in theaters again. So we'll
yeah, I mean, I
see.
have a few IMAXs around still, so I've been lucky in that regard. But
There you go. So getting into our main topic of discussion. Oh man, we're talking about the good stuff here. So
sure.
I want to say it's worth noting that we're talking about the Del Rey novels, and specifically, I know that Padawan came out. That's technically a young adult novel, and so we're just focusing on Del Rey because I put out a tweet. I finished The Princess and the Scoundrel, and I was just like, man, oh man, 3 for 3 on Del Rey. This is the kind of stuff I like, and I know you're gonna have quite a bit to say. We'll go through each one of these books individually about our favorite parts and big things that happened in them, broad strokes, and how we felt. But it was great to see these books coming out. Yeah, some of them were kind of tie-ins, but not direct tie-ins to like actual things happening. I mean, Brotherhood, yeah, they put it out because they're promoting Obi-Wan, but that story took place way, way before that. Shadow of the Sith, that was just done purely to enhance the sequels. And then you have Princess and the Scoundrel, which, yeah, I mean, it's kind of made in a way for the promoting the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel. But it's cool to see that Del Rey had different books with different characters that we all love in completely different eras. Brotherhood, prequels, Shadow of the Sith. I would consider that more sequel trilogy stuff, and then Princess and the Scoundrel definitely more original trilogy stuff. All telling stories that matter, all telling stories that actually had huge ramifications for the characters that they have depicted in them that actually push the storytelling quite a bit. So, yeah, opening salvo, if you just want to talk in broad strokes, I know you're not quite done with Princess and the Scoundrel, but yeah, do you agree with me? Like, it was nice to see that they had this kind of diversity in the books that they had this summer.
Oh yeah, totally. These are the kind of books I like, maybe even more say than High Republic, and I've enjoyed what I've read of High
Mm-hmm.
Republic more or
Mm-hmm.
less. But that at its own little era. But these are the kind of books I really like because it's like you got Shadow of the Sith that's really expanding upon something from the movies directly. It's a big backstory for Rey and her backstory, also showing like what's life like with Luke and even Lando in between episodes 6 and 7, kind of in their heyday. Brotherhood I really liked as well, just sort of as a really good character piece for Obi-Wan and Anakin. Plot-wise, I feel like it was a smaller scale weird way. Like, it wasn't setting up any major thing, but I think in terms of just showing, here's Anakin and Obi-Wan at probably their best. And then for Princess Scoundrel, I haven't finished it yet, but I do love seeing. I think it's to the part of the wedding, which is probably the most important part because they get married, and just kind of seeing those early days post early hours post Return of the Jedi, and just kind of everyone kind of like, oh dang, the Emperor's dead, the Empire's gone. Now what? What do we do next? Leia, obviously realizing, oh yeah, I'm a Skywalker technically. Luke's my brother. That love triangle we had together, we all had, was weird. Oh dang. Darth Vader's my father. Oh, okay. But the enemy, the man who I loathe, my great enemy is my father. That is Leia be like, oh wow. Like trying to figure all that out as well. But yeah, I think in terms of the diversity of story and just in terms of characters and era, it's really good, and I really enjoyed it. And it's a kind of book, and they're one and done books, so that's always nice for me.
Yeah,
I think it's a good trilogy, but yeah, I do enjoy a one and done book too. I think it's got a lot of meat to it.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a lot of diversity. So getting into the Brotherhood book, the story between Anakin and Obi-Wan, this was pitched as, hey, we're going to actually explore that business on Canon and Moiety that happened. And I like how this comes basically directly after Attack on Clones. Just starting with, let's talk about Anakin as a character and his journey through the book. And what I really thought was quite interesting is how he's thinking of Padme first off, and just that kind of romance they have to keep, behind the curtain a little bit, and his feelings as a Jedi and his duty and all that. I feel like that really was enhanced with this book, and it showed us a good deal of like how that is going. And we also had that young adult novel written by I forget her name, E.K. Johnston, the Padme novel, Queen's
Hope.
Queen's Hope, which I don't know if you read that, but that directly like basically tied in, like they overlapped a little bit. So I thought that was pretty neat because that was cool.
I read both at the same time. It was like, I noticed the parallels there.
Mm-hmm. And one of the coolest things I like about this book with Anakin's character is how many times they talk about his robotic hand and the fact that, like literally moments before he got that severed, and it has to do with like phantom injuries. And Mike Chen went on record to say he had talked with, amputees and stuff like that to really get the feeling of what it could be like. And I feel like that came like across so well. And like, I never would have thought about thinking about that with Anakin. Like it didn't ever come up with like, oh, how does Anakin feel? But like, that's the great thing about these books is you got time to be in a character's head. You have time to do things like that to really enhance the character. So him like learning to fight with the saber, with the feeling gone essentially like in his hands. How'd you feel about that?
No, that was cool. I mean, I like it's interesting that this is our first actual book of post Attack the Clones. It's like Clone Wars Day 2.
Yeah,
the actual Clone Wars show doesn't take place like a month afterwards. Anakin's hair's now a little more grown out, and his hair's still short. It doesn't have the Padawan tape braid anymore. So that's interesting. It was really cool just kind of seeing, Anakin kind of like figure this all out. Like, oh yeah, I don't have a hand anymore. Weird. And then, like he's going to make adjustments to it. So it's like, it's his hand. He can make it more of himself.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then you have this one character that I really enjoyed. There's this Jedi Initiate. And by the way, I like how they've been using that terminology a lot in Star Wars books and in comics recently, because they have a hierarchy of the Jedi now. I don't know if this was in Legends, but like apparently you have a Jedi like youngling or infant or whatever you want to call them. But then it's the Initiates, and the Initiates go out and they get their crystals from Ilum, and then they become a Padawan, then they become a Knight, then they become a Master. So I don't know about you, but like this one character that's a Jedi, Mil Esbeth or something like that. Maybe I'm pronouncing the name wrong, but
Yeah, you got it, Mill.
Mil. I thought she had a great arc where it's like she doesn't know if she wants to be a Jedi because she's a super empath, and meaning that she feels the pain of others. And like when the Clone Wars is going on, there's so much death and destruction that it is like overbearing for her to even open herself up to the Force, because when she does, it just like cripples her. So I love the idea of how they explored just, oh, maybe I should just not even be part of the Jedi Order because it's just too much. I'm going to shut myself off physically from the Force.
Oh, I love Mill. She was great. I love the ending with her as well, and her ultimate decision. Part of me like, oh, her and Anakin could have been together. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Like if you're just a little young, I think. It's okay. I don't think you're old enough yet. But she was. I loved her. I loved her kind of her empathy, her empath abilities, and just the fact that she's going to be like a healer instead of a knight. And I think it's kind of cool to see different paths you can take as a Jedi.
Mm-hmm. And obviously the whole thing with the Nemoidians, Kid and Nemoidia, I think Mike Chen really did an awesome job with, this whole book. Some books we get several locations, like Shadow of Sith we'll talk about, but this was solely focused on Kid and Nemoidia, and we get a whole, course basically on politics, culture of the Nemoidians, how they fit in the galaxy. It's a little bit harder to figure out sometimes because it's like, wait, so you have the Separatists, right? You have the Trade Federation, but then you also have over here is like the government of Kata Nemoidia that doesn't quite call themselves part of the Trade Federation, all of them. So it's like that's where the politics is pretty good because we get to deal with these thin lines, a slippery slope of the Republic can't send in troops because it's a neutral planet. That's why they send out Obi-Wan, and we get to see Obi-Wan doing this awesome negotiation work. So I enjoyed that quite a bit with the whole politics and look at this Star Wars planet in the continuity that we currently are.
No, you're right. I loved it. I think it also kind of let's face it, as what we've seen on the screen so far, Nemoidians are always the bad guys, right? They're the green alien businessmen with the weird voices. And here they deal with no, not all Nemoidians are Newt Gunray and the robe wearing evil people. You got my favorite moment is when one of the Nemoidians talking about even though he has parents who they work for business because that's what their minds are. Their true passion is artwork, and they love to draw and art. And they went to Coruscant, but then they had to deal with some serious racism against the Nemoidian people. And it's no wonder the Nemoidians are mad. It's they've been kind of blamed always for bad things ever since the Phantom Menace, and it's we're not all like that, all those are Newt Gunray, so it's don't generalize society based on one bad apple in your society at the time. And sort of for the Nemoidians, it's they got the shard under the stick. Even Anakin deals with that sort of racism against Nemoidians. Mm-hmm. Padme and Queen's Hope kind of had their suspicions, and it's Nemoidians they can be nuanced and different too, and everything. I think Mike Chen did a great job of really showing that hey, Nemoidians, they're not all evil. It's how a lot of video games, every Rodian looks like Greedo and the bounty hunter. Not all Rodians are bounty hunters. Not all Nemoidians are evil business people. It's give some nuance to the aliens, which I think sometimes Star Wars needs a little bit in terms of just because one alien was bad in the movie doesn't mean they're all the same. Yeah. Not all Hutts can be gangsters.
Yeah. Yeah, like you look at some things with the Gungans, for instance. I think Daniel Jose Older in Last Shot had a cool Gungan that was no, I'm not like your typical Gungan, right? I forget exactly what his personality was, but I know he stood out from characters like Jar Jar Binks, for instance. You have Gungan that's in Charles Soule's Light of the Jedi that's working underneath one of the Tempest runners for the Nile, and he's like this wet bub guy or something. So it's cool, like that's what the publishing could do so well with the paper canon, is taking some of those unfortunate things that happen with some of the alien characters and breathing new life and giving them new experiences and new personalities. They're like, nah, they're not all the same. They're not all, talking the same and whatnot. They're actually their own individuals too.
Exactly, and I think that was probably my favorite thing about that book. Honestly, was all the Nemoidian stuff and just learning about Nemoidian society, how their brains work, how they're good for business, but that doesn't mean like, oh, they're all about making money. It's like, they like art, they like history, and you have kids and families.
Yeah, there's some great build up in this story. I mean, we all want to see Obi-Wan hanging out with Anakin, and I think it goes on for a little bit. I think it's like not until like the last quarter of the book where they actually unite on Kid and Nemoidia. Like you have Anakin over here doing his thing, and Obi-Wan's already on Kid and Nemoidia. But by the time they do meet up, there is this epic moment where they're just all together fighting, and it's just like the dialogue between these two characters is done so naturally and so effortlessly by Mike Chen. It makes me feel like I'm watching a Clone Wars arc, right? Like this felt like it could have been a Clone Wars arc, and that's probably the best like thing I could say about any of Clone Wars publishing, is if it feels like I'm watching a show, then they are doing their job,
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally. I agree. Probably my, if I had to rank them, and although I haven't experienced Scoundrel, probably my second favorite of the three.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say that as well, and I cannot wait to see Rogue, the cool ass like ex Special Forces Nemoidian female, in some other things, because oh my gosh, like that was one of the strongest endings to an actual book I've read with Star Wars. Like just the explanation of like the two blue blades, like one aggressive, one defensive, like cutting through the smoke and the fog. And then it's like, who those characters are, and they save Rogue. It's like, oh man, like I gotta see how she shows up later on in something. Like it's gotta happen. Like Mike Chen, make a Obi-Wan, like an Anakin story again in the Clone Wars somewhere down the line. Like I said earlier, like sometimes I'm like, do we need more Clone Wars stories? And then I go back to stories like Brotherhood and like the Obi-Wan miniseries I'm reading right now. I'm like, no, you can make all the Clone Wars content you want. I'll eat it up as long as it's good quality.
Yeah. No, I'm happy about that, and I hope he does another one, because his stuff is great. Best again, if he does more Nemoidians, then like really be the Nemoidian guy and really build up that society.
Although I do think they eventually have to have the stuff with his old girlfriend that we see in the Clone Wars, Duchess Satine. I think they did make a reference to her in this a couple times about how during the events of the Canon Nemoidia thing is when Mandalore like professes their want to be neutral at that point in time. Like,
yeah, so maybe
like why is Lucasfilm dragging their feet so much with that story that everybody wants to know? Are they like purposely saving that for some kind of like upcoming TV thing? That could be my only reasoning.
I mean, if Tales of the Jedi gets a second season, that could be something. An anthology show. So.
Yep. We got my co-host in here, Ben Maynard. He's just stopping by. He's got company over from out of town, which is why he can't be here tonight. And Milton's also deposed somewhere. So getting into the next book here, I have a feeling this is going to be the one you like the most, and that is because it's also the one I like the most, and that is Shadow of the Sith. I'll let you undo the or unload the opening salvo of thoughts, and we can get into more detail along the way, because I actually went through and I made sure I pulled up my notes, my extensive notes of let me see, how many pages of notes did I make with this book? 13 pages worth of notes with this book. So I'll let you go first. Yeah. So what'd you like so much about this story?
What did I like about it? Well, of course, okay, that, what I, thank you, everything, this was probably my most anticipated movie, not movie, book,
Yeah, it might
this
as well
year.
be a movie with how good it was written.
Yeah, it's a movie book experience for me. But what I liked about it was just like, this is what I like about the books is like expanding on things that maybe the TV shows don't really want to deal with. Because like you only tell so much, but like this is still a good enough story to tell on its own. Really gives some like crucial backstory to like Rey, what her parents were like. Expand upon something within the movie itself, showing us in between episodes 6 and 7 more directly with Luke and some of the original Phillips characters, seeing what they were doing, before it all went to crud. I really liked Lando in this story in particular. Like, I realized this was a really interesting evolution of his character. It was cool seeing Luke kind of be like, what sort of Jedi he was trying to be. Like, did he succeed? Did he fail? And like kind of like, oh, you really are trying to be a prequel Jedi right now with like how you're dealing with Ben Solo. I love seeing Rey's parents, obviously Dason and Miramir. Kind of like where did Dason come from? Obviously Exegol, but like this sort of thing. Like, oh, he was a natural growing clone strand cast person.
Oh yeah.
And then just kind of seeing like how Rey ended up on Jakku and whatnot, and obviously Ochi got to see more Ochi and how that all went down. That's what I like. Just it's like almost it's kind of like Rogue One in book form. It's like take a few lines from a movie. It's like have minimal backstory and then make a whole story out of it. So maybe not as that. And obviously I like Kaiser, right? Kaiser, the sister acolyte with the mask.
Oh yes, yeah, Kiza. Mm-hmm.
I like seeing that and kind of, Epson Penchar, this ancient Sith, gave me very Legends, Star Wars Legend vibe with like ancient Sith ghosts who are still doing things, even though they need to be dead. And just overall, a really interesting book, and just kind of seeing what that little time frame of before, Ben Solo fell and became Kylo Ren and all that. So, yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, I would say that getting that relationship between Luke and Lando, and mind you, real quick, I want to point this out because it was pointed out me again and Matthew. We were teaming up, tackling Star Wars Celebration publishing paper cannon panels all weekend long there, and I thought it was pretty cool because if you look at these books, right, there's two main characters in each of the books. These books we're talking about tonight all have interpersonal relationships, whether it be Anakin and Obi-Wan, Leia or Han, or Luke and Lando. And it's interesting because you're like, wait a minute, Luke and Lando, I mean, yeah, they said a few words together to one another maybe, but they weren't like really best buds. So like, how did they end up on an adventure together, and how the heck is that going to be? And I think that Adam Christopher really pulled that off quite well. Just the slow build of like, hey, they are two completely different people. They really are. Luke is there. He's very pious. He's very just, in his own head, like, studying things. And Lando is trying to find his daughter. And it's been trying to find his daughter. And you get so much backstory. But you just see that there's moments, like you said, I think Lando is my favorite character in this because I never once cared for Lando so much as I did by reading this book. There's moments that just broke my heart when he's like, just reminiscing about his daughter and everything else. I just like, wow. And like seeing like Luke embracing him as he's literally crying. It was like, holy crap. This is like some really powerful stuff right now that is hitting me in the feels, man. Like, it was great.
I think my favorite moment was when, the Lando was having flashbacks to his daughter, and Lando had his ice cream, and they were, he was in the little closet of cakes, and it's like, they're so adorable. It's like, oh, man, like, Lando had a happy life for a little bit.
Yeah.
This is Lando. He's like swashbuckling scoundrel Lando, now the family man. And it's like, oh, just watching that all just go downhill, and it's like, it's something like so much more tragic, but I love it. I love the tragedy to it. Like,
Oh yeah, I mean, I like how we get introduced to Lando, and it's the same old Lando. Like he's in this randomly like bar cantina and he's playing sabacc and he's trying to get some information, and we pick up with Luke and it's like, yeah, Luke's just going out there trying to get artifacts. We see Lord Santek. I mean, I think fans have been like wanting that since The Force Awakens. Fans have been dreaming of, let's get the adventures of Lord Santek and Luke Skywalker, and we kind of got a little bit of that in this actual book, seeing people like the archaeologist that everybody loves, the meme, dark sciences, secrets only the Sith knew, and all that sort of thing. With oh gosh,
I forget he's in that. Yeah, he's in this book. He had a weird accent in the audiobook. Did you listen to the audiobook, by the way?
No, I read the book. Okay.
They gave a lot of weird accents in the audiobook. They gave that guy a French accent, and Pride sounded like Jack Nicholson.
Oh my gosh. We gotta spend some time talking about Pride, because Pride was basically the cause of the death of Ochi Bestoon when you think about it. Just getting him hooked on the alcohol, and then just the craziness behind who Pride actually is, like a guy that will have death sticks and kill Ewoks and use their fur as capes. Like, oh my gosh, this guy's this actual savage.
No wonder he was so high in the First Order. Like, even Hux would be afraid of him. It's like this guy's the real deal.
But what I liked about this is they even Adam Christopher went through and gave Ochi Bestoon such a compelling arc. And it continues with Greg Pak's run of the Darth Vader ongoing series right now, picking up from Exegol, giving us that motivation that we need, that he's going to be the guy that wants to get fixed. Like, he's got his eyes burned out by some giant kyber crystal mountain there on Exegol, and he wants to get repaid. And you got the Sith Eternal cult. That was cool. But then you also have Acolytes of Beyond, and we've been wanting to understand what the heck those Acolytes of Beyond were since Aftermath trilogy. We were supposed to get a story in this canceled Chuck Wendig comic years back where he was going to shed some more light on the Acolytes of Beyond, but having Kiza there, having all those people, it just like, it felt like the scope of this thing was massive. It was one of the bigger scopes of a Star Wars book, like you said, having to tackle some ethereal forms with these like Sith ghosts. Oh my gosh. And then it's like, holy crap, was that Palpatine actually talking to Ochi Bestoon at that one point? It had to have been.
Yeah, that was Palpatine. I think that's the thing about the book, which I find interesting, is like, I thought I would be disappointed, but like, no, I actually really liked it. Like, it's called Shadow of the Sith, but I think the Shadow is more about Exum Panchar than it's actually about Palpatine.
Yeah.
But I like that in a weird way too. It's like, you got Palpatine via Ochi doing his thing, but then you got, this other Sith dude trying to do his thing. So I always like the idea of like the Sith who are like independent of Palpatine doing their thing, even though it's from like beyond the grave. What was I saying? But yeah, but like it's just kind of cool. It's like you got this one dude doing one thing, and then Palpatine doing his thing on Exegol. I wish we could learn some more about Exegol, and maybe they're gonna naturally just build it up with other things. I really feel like we learned a lot. Like, the cloning facility's been there for a long time, and Palpatine's been clearly has had the had his clones been going on for a while. I like the fact that they tied into the Vader comic as well. Let's say Jason left Exegol when OT and Vader arrived during that Vader comic.
Yeah,
so that was really
that
cool.
was really cool connective tissue. Just getting more like I know that Matthew has a specific term from Eye On Canon, has a specific term for this book. He's like the Reformation project for the Rise of Skywalker. What a reclamation I forget what the heck you might know it, but I love the term.
I think it's Reformation project for Rise of Skywalker. That redemption project. I don't remember. Start with an R.
But
Matthew, are you in the comments?
I really think if you're a sequel fan, this is an essential book because you get so much from Rey and her parents, and you get a good idea. Like, I haven't watched Rise of Skywalker yet after reading this, but I feel like I'm gonna look through it. I'm gonna watch it through.
You should read the novelization. Honestly, read the novelization.
Oh, I have.
Book,
yeah. There's a lot more in that as well.
Mm-hmm. This book takes a lot from that novelization. It takes the whole Lando's daughter thing from the novelization. That's not in the movie, but it's in the novelization. So that's something I like.
Yeah, I like how badass Luke was. Like, this is the Luke that I wanted to see at some point, and there's so many vehicles and ships in this damn thing that I love. Like, you get the fact that Luke Skywalker is on a damn modified speeder bike, like with his lightsaber, not trying to kill people, but like accidentally killing them and actually feeling remorse. Like, he's not just wiping these people out like some dark side user. Like, he's feeling compassion. He's like, I didn't want to have to do that, but I basically had no other choice, unfortunately. And like, the guy's getting drowned like underneath the ice or whatever, or the water or whatever the heck happened. And it's like, damn, some of the stuff is really gnarly. But that was really cool, getting to see his temple and understanding that it's a Legends planet called Ossus. That was in the Legends of the Old Republic, and you can go there in the game and stuff that I play still. And it's like, whoa, wow, all right, so we're getting some hard-hitting facts. We're seeing a Ben Solo, a young 16-year-old, I think he's like 16 or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ben Solo. 16. So that was neat.
Right. And Ossus actually goes further back. It goes all the way to the second Dark Empire comic.
Oh.
Dark Empire 2.
What was that about?
Oh, Dark Empire? That's the story.
No, Dark Empire 2.
Oh, well, Palpatine came back in a clone body again. He had one more clone body. Yeah, so he destroyed the clone body. He destroyed Palpatine at the end of Dark Empire. And then Dark Empire 2, you find out, oh wait, he had one more clone body that's still working. So now he's on his last clone body, and he's got this new super weapon called Galaxy Gun, which can shoot missiles into planets and destroy them. And Luke Skywalker has got to find, and some new Jedi buddies of his have got to stop him. And at the end of Empire's End, they do, because Palpatine is going to try and possess the body of Anakin Solo and take over his body, the baby, and hopefully grow up with that. But then he gets stopped by Luke and his buddies. Oh, and Han shoots Palpatine in Empire's End too. They just shoots him. Destroys the body.
Sometimes this is kind of why Legends got out of control, in my opinion. And sometimes I'm thankful for Lucasfilm to just wipe the slate clean. I know people are going to be really angry at me saying that, but I mean, we haven't actually had stories quite like that, at least in continuity, which are just so bizarre.
This came close to a classic Legend book, I feel, in terms of like ancient Sith spirits being the main villain and stuff like that. And Lando looping buddies.
I got really good like Lord of the Rings Nazgul vibes with Luke like transporting himself to Exegol. That was awesome.
Oh, that was awesome. You know, Exegol is basically the Mordor of the Star Wars galaxy in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and we always know like Dave Filoni, he loves Gandalf, and he basically sees Ahsoka as Gandalf. So there you go. There's more Star Wars and Lord of the Rings crossover for you. But yeah, man, oh man, like seeing the ghost of Anakin talking with Luke, that's like the first time in the continuity right now that we've gotten something like that, but it was not what you would expect. And it was like the radio frequency of the Force was like off or something. And that was the one thing I was like a little bit let down by, because they never went to the end of the book to address that again. It was kind of just like left there where it was like, oh, I thought we would get like one more conversation of like, hey, it's fixed. The Force is fine.
Maybe because it was not fixed, because Palpatine's still out there.
Yeah, I guess.
One thing I liked about that scene is like I like that Anakin's like shifting back and forth between Hayden Christensen and Sebastian Shaw. Did you notice that? Where it's like he transformed to like, they say like he transformed to like the elderly figure of his father, and then the younger version of like it's going back between OG edition and then special edition Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah,
that was cool.
It had one of the best lightsaber duels in the books that I've like read so far. Was like Luke going to the asteroid base thing and like fighting Kiza, and like that was so cinematic. Like I was imagining this epic duel where like that like forge like fell over and there was magma inside this chamber, and like Luke was like jumping up and falling down, like using the force to pull the mask off. Like it was really like just epic quality. I was just picturing this in my head, just like, whoa, this is the Luke with the green lightsaber. It's like, yes, this is him in his height of his power, and you get to see how powerful Luke is at this point.
But I also like seeing, he's really trying to be like the prequel Jedi, like no attachments, no being informal with my Padawan, though he's my nephew. It's like kind of like seeing struggles, like, can I be like this? I don't know. And then it's like, you can tell, like, oh, that's not helping his relationship with Ben, so.
But, big picture stuff here is, we know how the story ends, basically, because we've watched Rise of Skywalker. We know that the parents are going to die. We know where Rey ends up. But like any good prequel story, it left me on the edge of my seat. I was wondering, like, ooh, what's going to happen for Ochi to end up here dead and all this. And it was kind of comical how that all happened, where he just gets so drunk that he just... he loses it.
That's Ochi for you. Oh, one thing I really like, though, is that, and this is actually kind of interesting, I didn't realize this until just now, they said Ochi was around since the Clone Wars. He was hunting Depa Billaba.
Oh, so, my gosh.
We can even now have more Ochi stories even before the original trilogy. Like, we've been doing this Jedi hunting for the Sith thing forever.
That's what I always wanted to know, because when they first announced how he was a Sith hunter, I was like, really? He's a Sith? But no, he's a hunter that works for the Sith, hence Sith hunter. And I stood, like, I sat close, like, I had to straighten up in my seat when I read that part with the flashback or whatever the nightmare he was having. Because a couple months prior, I had read this Shatterpoint novel, which basically that's what the story was being told, where they're in a jungle planet, Depa's there, Mace Windu is there. But I'm just sitting there wondering, like, oh, did this actually happen? Like, was he actually on that planet? But it seemed to me like it was more of a nightmare, because it seems like Mace Windu basically kills him, and that's how he, like, snaps out of it or whatever. But I thought that was a cool detail, too. Again, fleshing him out. And like you said, more Clone Wars, I said earlier, more Clone Wars stories. Let's have Ochi in a couple of them going forward now.
Yeah, I guess that'd be cool. Like, get a sequel trilogy character in the prequel era. That'd be something. Because I think even in this book we saw battle droids. So it's like, cool, battle droids in the sequel era, kind of. At least the post-Andor era, so it's like, that's, I always like seeing kind of like that, that synergy between the different eras kind of all mashing together. It's like, oh yeah, those things still would exist, Obviously, maybe not a lot of them, because they're all, they want to get rid of the Separatist stuff, because, my good luck to have Separatist stuff because of what they did. But, it's like, oh, I'm sure a few B-1 battle droids are lying around somewhere.
Yeah, seeing the droid crush pirates from the Vader comics was really neat, too. Those wacky droids just dropping in and just causing mayhem and havoc, and that whole world was like, not world, but like the whole station with that one character, just like the guy that you knew he was up to something, like, I'm gonna call in these guys and we're gonna make the deal. It's like, too late, and he just gets killed. But that was fun. That was a fun moment. But just the cat and mouse antics of it all, like, oh my gosh, Luke and Lando were so close to getting to Rey's parents. At one point they literally see the silhouettes of them through the transparent steel canopy of the actual ship, and it's like, they're right there.
I know,
so
it's
tragic.
I know, it's like, it's like you want to cross your fingers and be like, you're gonna be okay, and then it's like, they weren't okay. Like, you're rooting for them, but deep down they're not gonna make it, and it just hurts even more.
Yeah, it humanizes the character that's played by, oh man, the guy on the Jakku Outpost that basically watches over Rey. You have a new respect for him now. Unkar Plutt. Yes, we have a new respect for him now. He was her protector, even though after a certain point, he was going to ask for her to work if they didn't pick her up in time, and that's what we see eventually happen. But yeah, we got a new kind of look at him, like, okay, like, maybe he wasn't such a he has a kind of crummy attitude, but deep down he's got some kind of a heart, I guess.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit. You know, it's like poor Ray still being with Unkar Blood, but like, yeah, you know, it's like some people are still better than this. In a way.
Yep. So, yeah, just this is probably like right now sitting somewhere near like the top 5 of the Star Wars canon books for me so far. I would say definitely in the top 10 for me.
Same, probably in my top 5. Yeah, it's probably my top 5. Maybe number 5. I have to go through my list again, but I probably would put it in number 5, or in the top 5 spot for sure.
Yeah. And getting on to the last book that was released for this summer, it has The Princess and the Scoundrel. So far, you have read through the first third. I'll just give a quick little spoiler-free summary. This book is all about the wedding, of course, of Leia and Han. It's shortly after events, as you can imagine, after the Battle of Endor. And they are on the upswing, but the Empire's still around. So we have Leia, who's trying to basically show the galaxy that it's safe to go out again and have fun, and the New Republic is in its fledgling state. So they're trying to just show the people that, hey, new government is going to keep you safe. So it's so safe you can go on a cruise again that used to be owned by the Empire, and you'll be perfectly fine. And then they end up on this other planet, which is an ice planet that has a lot going on there. So just kind of focusing on the first couple chapters, since that's where we've gotten so far. Joel, did you get to the part with Leia and the Bonfire of Vader?
Oh, yes, I did. I'm on chapter 23. So we're already on the starters. We already left Endor. I think so far everything on Endor is probably my favorite part. You know, just kind of like Leia dealing with the fact that the Empire's gone, that Vader's her father, that, you know, she wants to marry Han, and Han wants to marry her. It's like everyone kind of dealing with, like, now, like, the war's over. Well, it's not over, but it's like the biggest, you know, the Emperor's gone. Like, dang, I never thought we'd actually get here. And I really like that part with the bonfire, too, because, like, you know, I think we as both fans and Star Wars, up to a certain point, had a very Luke Skywalker-centric point of view of a lot of things. Like, you know, Anakin threw the Emperor off the rail. So yeah, he's redeemed, and you know, he's the Force Ghost, and giving Luke the thumbs up. Like, good job, boy. It's like they didn't want to be happy about it. Like, no, Vader blew up her planet and tortured him. Anakin blew up her planet and tortured him. You know, it's like if Reva met the ghost of Anakin Skywalker, she'd be like, "Oh no, not you! Like, stab me twice." Once as a kid before you got all messed up.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like Anakin still got a lot to atone for, like, and not everyone's gonna forgive him, and quite frankly, they don't have to forgive him. Like, I don't think Leia, to her, Vader's evil, and, you know, Bail and Rey are her real parents, as far as she's concerned. You know, Luke kind of has a bit more of that doughy, wide-eyed view of things. And, you know, it's like, because he's got all, like, the Force and the light side, like, you know, like, they're like, no, this dude tortured me. I had to deal with a mind probe that messed me up really bad. And she probably even knew Vader longer, too, just via her parents having anti-Imperial sentiments for a long time. So just kind of seeing that perspective, which I think they've been doing a lot in new canon, both in books and other media as well, kind of showing, you know, like, it's not just Luke's, you know, good, you know, Anakin being the Force Ghost, like, like, no, there's gonna be a lot of people out there, like, aren't happy with Vader / Anakin, and shouldn't be, quite frankly, because he did a lot of bad stuff for 25.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I always say this, too. It's like, Vader got off the hook too easily, right? Because he got the redeemed for the couple seconds, and then he dies. So it's like, what happens if Vader lives? And how will the people react? So, I mean, in a weird abstract way, like, Leia's reaction is very realistic because we never see that happening. We get a little bit of it in Bloodline, I suppose, but, like, getting it fresh from her perspective, and seeing like her visceral reaction to the pyre and feeling the call to the force. I would explain that as the call to the force. She was feeling something a little weird. It was like, oh, it was like on Cloud City. Yeah, it's because it's the force. She just doesn't know it yet. And she was getting really angry. I was like, holy crap, like this is Leia maybe like digging into her passion, which would lead to the dark side, you know? So it's like, oh crap, like just I thought that was such a powerful moment and one of the standout moments that I'll never forget when I read this book, you know. Um,
I've been saying this for a while, and I'm kind of curious what you got to say. I've always had this like opinion in my head that like if Leia is like any of her parents, like sometimes like, oh, you're more like your dad, you're like your mom. I think Leia is actually a lot more like Anakin in both her persona and kind of her passion. Like Leia's response to the
mhm.
First Order coming is, I'm going to start my own private militia and go fight them. Very Anakin kind of think later. Let's get to it. Come on, we got do stuff to do. And I always feel like Luke did a lot more. Even though yeah, like Padme, like Padme into politics. I think like Anakin's got a lot of that temper and that kind of brashness to her. And Luke, I think, even though he's the Jedi, he got a lot more Padme kind of calmness. And obviously, like Padme, she still believed there was good in Anakin the whole time. While Leia obviously not a lot less forgiving, and I think Anakin is also a lot less forgiving of people in a way. So I've always I felt like New Can started positioning it as like, if Leia's like any of her parents, she's actually probably more like Anakin than even she probably would care to admit at that moment.
Oh, that's a
And
really interesting perspective. Putting it that way, I love that, man. That's really cool. Just we think so much of Padme, her, right, the daughter, but yeah, you're right. Like making the militia, all that stuff, being headstrong. I could see it. I could see it.
yeah,
So, and speaking of Leia, like we get some moments where she's just dealing with just the ramifications of everything. And this is later on in the book. Just like, hey, like I have to choose between duty and between a new husband. Like she doesn't know how to relax, and I think that's so realistic for again a lot of people bringing the story down to earth, making or something relatable. It's like we get caught up in our work so much, and it's just like sometimes you just gotta take a step back, right? This is freaking vacation she's on, but she's making all these damn calls. Like even Bon Mothma. Okay, we got a Mon Mothma playing Mon Mothma in this book, by the way. It's like, yeah, you gotta just chill out, and poor Han is like on the sidelines, like, yeah, I don't know, I don't fit on the Halcyon. I belong in a place like the Mos Eisley Cantina, Shaman's Cantina, and here I am on this, you know, pristine ship with all these very rich people that I probably would never hang out with in my life if I had the choice. So there's a lot going on with Han, there's plenty going on with Leia in the story. And, the Halcyon is on the cover. It's the Galactic Star Cruiser. So the big elephant in the room is like, hey, is this just a commercial for Galactic Star Cruiser? And I'm happy to say that it is not. But they managed to get the Halcyon to be a significant part of the journey of this book and play into a bigger factor in even the last third of the book. And so, yeah, I really did like to see how all of that kind of transpired. Yes, they make specific references to a certain cocktail or how the cabin looks. They try to explain this stuff because, honestly, 95% of us are probably not going to go there for how much it costs to go. And they even make a joke about that in the actual book, like once or twice, about like, oh yeah, it's so expensive here. I was like, yep, can't deny
yeah.
that.
I guess I'll probably make it to bit 2 before I get to the house at this point. But no, I agree. So far I haven't found it too egregious. And it's just cool seeing, Han and Leia showing their love for one another. It's always been one of the better romances in Star Wars, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah. This is the best. I mean, I haven't read every Star Wars book by a long shot, but this is the best Star Wars romance story because it's not done. It's not hit over the head like, oh, they're making out every other scene. But there's moments where it's like, all right, they're sharing a room alone. It's no one's watching. Like we're newlyweds. Like this again, down to earth story. these sorts of things would happen in a relationship, and when you have two important people that every once in a while have to give in to their own, carnal desires or whatever, and just like to give into passion for that couple moments there. But I love that pull and that tug between like Leia having to come back to reality, like she has to let go. She's not single anymore. She's not just having one mission only. Her other mission is that she's part of a family essentially now, and dealing with all of that, and and dealing with the Luke stuff. There's a lot of stuff throughout the book. Should I become a Jedi? No, it's going to take away from me starting up the New Republic. Having to go through those thoughts is very realistic. I keep saying it, but just like, it's just a very believable thing for her character, and where we see her end up, where she eventually does end up with Luke, but then ends up stepping back. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I like the Luke stuff because, like, he seems so isolated, even when he's with his friends. Like, that's why I feel like desperate to get Leia to join him, because, like, someone who could understand the weight of the Force, but, like, he just seems so lonely at that moment, because, like, he is right now the last Jedi, so it's like, even when he's with his loved ones and friends, kind of in a different, like, plane of existence almost. It's kind of sad.
Yeah. Like, it really is. You see that, and it's just, like, that could be how he ends up. It is sad that way. Like does he become lonely? Because we see what happens in Legends, right? He does have a wife, Mara Jade, and have a kid or two. Does he have a single kid or more than one? I do not know, really. Just one, right? One. Is it Anakin?
Yeah, I think Ben.
Oh, Ben. See, the guys on the other co-hosts of mine are so he's getting on my case about me not knowing anything about that stuff. It's like, how? But hey, I'm rusty, all right. But it is interesting, and just everything with this book surprised me. I feel like there wasn't anything that stood out to me that was like, oh, this is egregious, or what the heck's going on here, as far as like the Galactic Star Cruiser. And when you get to that third act, just like Caden Nemoidia I was explaining how I love when books like do a really big deep dive on culture and stuff. And I feel like even this last planet that's featured for that last third of the book has even more detail. And I want to see this planet in live action at some point. This planet would be really cool to see, because there's something that happens at the end of the book that would make it very, very interesting sequel tie-in connection, and that's what I'll say about that. I'm trying to pull up actually what the planet's name is called. It's something with an M here, but yeah, it's definitely. Oh, it's called Matters, Madurs. It's an ice planet, but it's not like Hoth. Hoth is like inhospitable, but these people actually make like this planet habitable. There's not as much like heavy winds, and it's more ice than it is like snow and tundra. So it's a cool culture that they built up. All the people, just the way of life, and how the people act, and how they get food and everything. Like they really get a good deep dive of the culture here in this book. And Beth Revis, I got to give credit. I don't think we mentioned her name at all. So yeah, Beth Revis wrote this, and she's the writer, as we mentioned before, of Rebel Rising. So there you go.
Another one of my favorite books. So yeah, definitely that Rebel Rising would be my top 10. So yeah, good pick.
But one last topic I want to talk about. I think you mentioned this. I think Matthew mentioned this. Lucasfilm and Publishing has created such a in-depth, interesting passage of time between right after the Battle of Endor into the last moments on the Battle of Jakku and Battlefront 2 and Lost Stars. We have so much content, whether it be the Aftermath trilogy to the Shattered Empire to Alphabet Squadron to Star Wars Squadrons to Battlefront 2's canon. There has been so much awesome content from that canon perspective that has really been awesome to see the publishing take a forefront to the point where Operation Cinder, which is showcased in all this, is even mentioned in The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 7. So I want to get your take on this, like about how do you think they've been doing this, and could we even get more stories in this time period? Because I feel like we're running out of room, but I love this fertile territory where there's still sects of the Empire that are fighting, and we get stuff like the Uprising game that is mentioned yet again. Governor
Mobile game,
Alhard.
I tell you. Like,
Oh my gosh.
That mobile game has gotten more references than anything else. It's like, dang, it's like this mobile game that I don't think anyone ever played. I know I didn't. It's like, and now it gets now it's everywhere. It's like every book talks about it. I don't even think it's on anymore. I don't know, but no, it's kind of amazing that the Endor to Jakku 1 year period is probably like the most cohesive era so far in terms of like, there aren't that many contradictions. It's the more like, like maybe the only thing I can think of is like Rax doesn't get mentioned a lot instead of outside of the Aftermath trilogy and maybe Alfred too. But outside of that, like, the Endor happens and the Empire kind of scrambles. And then, Operation Cinder takes effect, and then the Battle of Jakku, and then what's left of the Empire retreats into the unknown regions. So, it's a very busy year. I think they've done a good job. I don't know if there is a lot of story left to tell outside of maybe what the heck did Luke Skywalker do during that first whole year? Like, he did whisper, but like, we see him once in the Battlefront 2, but he's just looking for Jedi artifacts, and then it's sort of like, well, I don't know, like, there's a legend he meant to the Battle of Jakku, maybe. But because it'd be interesting to see.
We know the timeline with Luke is he's going to be wandering like a nomad Jedi for 5 years, because then we see him in Book of Boba Fett, which is 5 or 6 years after Return of the Jedi. And that's when he was literally putting the stones down for the first temple. The whole thing there was like Grogu was going to be his first student at that point. So, like, what the heck was he doing for 5 years? Like, that's what I'm very interested. We see in Shadow of the Sith, he's got all those artifacts at his temple. So, I mean, I guess he's just being a Jedi Indiana Jones at that point, going around with Lor Santeca.
But he's got to start from scratch. I mean, the Jedi Order pretty much got purged, and sort of like, well, I'm the last of these Jedi, so I better just gather all the information I can, and, can reconsolidate, because we lost a lot of stuff. So, yeah, you're probably looking for as much stuff as possible at this point. Yeah, it's like, all the kind of big political stories are done. I guess you can tell, like, individual soldier stories, like, maybe like a, more fighters or stormtroopers perspective on what happened. Yeah, it's like, I'm wondering, like, how much room is there left to tell stories in this 1 year period?
Yeah, we were talking online or offline, whatever, about the whole thing with, where are the comics gonna go? So maybe the comics, are they gonna just say, screw this, we're gonna just take place after Battle of Jakku?
I mean, they got. I mean, I've been saying they probably don't want to, touch the Mandoverse too much, obviously, because that's still going. They're probably going for a couple more years. But you got 5 years before Mandoverse officially starts, right?
Yeah.
So it's like maybe they'll do like, I mean, unless they want to, like, they could fill in a little bit more stuff that in between the Endor Jakku era. There's always that 5 year gap between that little sub epoch of Star Wars history and when Mandoverse officially kicks off. So it's like there can be like more cleanup to do, I'm sure. Certain Imperial remnants are out there, big Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Probably be more fun and little mini adventures to tell. I mean, who knows, right? I mean, who knows what the future holds.
Yeah. But there's so much more in the future. Our next novels we have are going to be kicking off the High Republic. We got The Path of Sea by Tessin Grant and Justine Ireland coming out on October 2nd. And then in November, we get our George Mann, which is the middle school novel, Quest for the Hidden City. And then we have, what is the something with a C that's written by Zoraida Cordova. It's not Contempt. something like that. But that's coming out in November as well. We take December off. January we come back. We have the George Mann audio drama, The Battle of Jeddah.
Yeah,
Can't wait for that.
Mm-hmm.
We take off February. Then March we have Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars with Cal Kestis. I think that's going to be a very rich tie-in story that takes place that bridges us between the 5-year gap between Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor coming out probably also in March of the game. So yeah, we got some more tie-ins for Jedi. I can't wait to see that happening. We had a good tie-in novel with the Battlefront 2 Inferno Squadron novel, which has given us the backstory of University and Inferno Squad with Gideon and Del Miko and all those guys. So I have all faith that there's going to be a good story there. But other than that, we do not have any other announcements of books that are not part of High Republic other than that Jedi book. So I'm very, very curious to see what Del Rey will have. I assume we're going to get a From Certain Point of View Return of the Jedi. It's going to be the 40th anniversary this upcoming 2023. So we'll be getting that. But yeah, let's see what else they can give us. Hopefully it's to the caliber of these 3 books we got this summer, because as you said, sometimes these tie-in books are the bread and the butter of what happens with the Star Wars books,
Oh, totally. I'm excited for some of the non-High Republic announcement. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm excited for the High Republic stuff too, but it's kind of what's the non-High Republic stuff going to be like? What are they allowed to touch?
Yeah.
Now.
That's the thing, right? We were talking about okay, what can they touch? All right, so Mandoverse is still going on, and it's can we do stuff there? Let's get some pre-Phantom Menace stuff. I think they're going to start tackling more.
That actually be nice. Or post-Phantom Menace, pre-Attack of the Clones.
That is the one area that Del Rey doesn't have a single book out in, and every time I open up that new book and I'm looking, I'm just staring at that gap, Del Rey, put something out there. We got a comic from Marvel that had something in that time period with Obi-Wan and Anakin. Let's get Mike Chen to write a story there. All right, let's get Mike Chen to write a story that builds up into that event where we see the flashback with Obi-Wan and Anakin fighting in the duel with the temple or something.
That'd be cool. Actually.
Oh man, I guess it is a relative time of peace, and unless it's Star Wars Resistance, where the first season was Star Peace for a couple episodes, and it's not super enticing.
The Confederacy's coming. The Separatists are coming. Count Dooku going to form the Separatist Crisis. So
yeah, that is true.
So that'd be cool. Though.
We could see more of that. But man, oh man, that's a podcast for another day. We could spend almost 2 hours that we did today, the same amount, just talking about future Star Wars stories we would like to see. And maybe one day we'll get you back on here to talk about that. But oh man, I had to pull in the big guns tonight because I think it was a due time to celebrate the Del Rey's efforts in the adult novels, of every one of them hitting at least an 8 to a 9.0 out of 10 for me. Great overall stories, but yeah, thanks for joining me, Joel. Very much so, and we'll get you back on here in the future. Maybe we'll talk about some comics next time or something, because we got this big old Kira trilogy that me and you are always chatting about online, that we're always so hyped about, and hopefully it ends in a nice, satisfying way. So yeah, definitely cool stuff there. But once again, can you remind everybody that maybe joined a little late where they can find you and what you do on the internet here for the Star Wars fandom community?
Well, you can find me on my personal Twitter, JID2012. It's the JID123. My bad. JID123. That's where you can find me on Twitter. I always forget my actually. Oh, 2021. I'm sorry. I don't know why I would get my dates wrong with this one. At JID2021 for Twitter. But you can mostly find us at the Eye On Canon Twitter, where I do most of my tweeting anyway, where I tweet mostly Star Wars related things, as we talk about for my Eye On Canon podcast, where we talk about canon, books, movies, anything in the Star Wars canon, how it all, connects, surrounds, and binds the franchise together to gently go to Obi-Wan. But yeah, you can find us there. We mostly do Mondays at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and that is 8 p.m. Eastern. Yes. I have to do math. I'm not good at math. But 5 p.m. Pacific time for sure. So you do the calculations for you East Coasters because I'm a Pacific Coaster. And it's great. We're part of the Star Wars Underworld podcast network, so you probably might see us pop in on a few of their other shows. We're all one big happy Star Wars family, fandom
Yeah.
we talk. So yeah.
That is awesome. So yeah, go follow him on Eye On Canon. Follow him on JID 2021 on Twitter, and Star Wars Underworld Network. I always shout out Star Wars Underworld. They helped get me started here on the podcast. They helped inspire me to make Star Wars content. So I'll always be forever for those grateful for those guys over there, for Ben, Dominic, and Chris. But as far as for the channel this week, we're going to be sailing through this week. We're going to have that one Star Wars comic, so you can expect a review on the channel from there. And other than that, you can catch an entire recap of that Star Wars Insider Republic, High Republic short story. I have an entire recap on the channel if you want a little bit more in-depth analysis of that. I have that on the channel already for your viewing pleasure. But other than that, we should have Milton. We should have Ben back next week, and we'll be breaking down Disney Plus Day. We'll be talking about the brand new Obi-Wan series documentary that finally they changed the name from Gallery because that was just bizarre. But we're going to be talking about that and hopefully some video game news. Hopefully we'll have a trailer breakdown of some gameplay where I'll talk everybody's ears off all night about that Star Wars Jedi Survivor gameplay. I'm willing it into existence, okay? So yeah, D23 starts next week, so be making sure you tune in to your social platforms because maybe we'll get some cool trailers that, have been leaked for months as well that they'll finally officially release in all their HD glory. So there's a lot to look forward to next week for sure. There's going to be no shortage of news after this week, really. I think from now on until Andor, we're going to be just inundated with new topics to discuss every week. It was a little light this week, but they gave us more time to celebrate the paper canon, the Star Wars canon, everywhere that's not on the screen. So for Joel, for myself, Chris, aka Starrapter, this was Outer Rim Transmission number 73. Thank you everybody for watching. May the Force be with you, and transmission.